The bulkhead door slammed closed behind him as Williams practically collapsed against the metal surface, panting, breathless, his skin covered with droplets of sweat and splatters of blood. Blood that was not his own. He checked the ammo counter. The numbers displayed on the side of the weapon he held in his trembling hands. 2 blinking zeros taunted him. His still shaking fingers scrambled at his pouches, searching for a spare magazine, only to find nothing. Rico had the bag with the spare ammo, and that thing had just got to Rico. Williams pulled out his sidearm, sliding out the magazine to find 3 measly rounds left. The new experimental ammunition was designed not to damage the ship itself, avoiding punching a hole in the hull by only harming organic life forms. It had meant there were barely enough bullets to go around, but they were told they wouldn't need to use them. Just a precaution, the company had said. The sound of something moving made Williams's pounding heart lurch beneath his ribs. He hurriedly slotted the magazine back into the pistol and pointed it outwards, turning the corridor of the ship. The ceiling and walls had been torn apart, damaged either in the impact or by the creature that was on board. Sparks burst from the exposed wiring, the only source of light since the flashlight on Williams's shoulder stopped working. He froze mid-step. Something that looked like a tail was trailing down from the ceiling. Williams felt his blood run cold. It was here, hiding in the ventilation system right above his head. He pointed his gun upwards. Then he remembered what had happened to Lance Corporal Henrik when he'd gotten its blood on him. His mind momentarily flashed to the side of the commanding officer screaming as he melted, alive. The same would happen to Williams if he landed a shot. Instead, he punched at the flashlight mounted on his shoulder, frantically trying to will it into working when suddenly, the beam came back on, revealing that what was in front of him was just a cable. A loose strand of electrical wiring that must have come loose, and now, in the dark, Williams had mistaken it for the creature's long prehensile tail. He breathed a shaky breath, despite it doing hardly anything to steady his nerves. Then something behind him breathed too. Feeling the warm exhale against his neck, Williams battled against every frantic nerve in his body that urged him to turn around and shoot it, or run for his life in the false hope that he'd outpace the creature. It was faster than anything he'd ever seen, able to move in the blink of an eye. His only defense was that he hadn't seen its face yet. His eyes had been glued to the motion tracker up until the second it attacked, and when the frantic gunfire had started, he'd only caught glimpses of the monster's dark, chitinous hide in the glare of muzzle flashes. His heart simultaneously sank and pounded as a heavy clawed hand rested on his shoulder, and Williams slowly turned around to face the creature. He screwed his eyes shut, hoping that would be enough to save himself. Then it hissed. A grating, piercing noise like nails dragging down a chalkboard. Although he couldn't see it, frozen to the spot in terror and held firm by the creature's grip, it was readying itself to strike. Beneath the domed, elongated carapace of its head, the huge, gaping-wide maw of SCP-096 still hung open in a permanent scream. Only now, there was a second inner pharyngeal jaw, like another mouth on the tip of a tongue that came shooting out like a piston. The excruciating pain shot through Williams' eye to the back of his skull, instincts causing his one remaining eye to snap open, and he saw it looking down at him through an eyeless face. The towering, terrifying creature coated with a biomechanical-looking exoskeleton, huge rows of fangs lining both of its mouths, poised to make another strike. There were more above, crawling upside down along the ceiling. They were the smaller, faster creatures, like drones of a beehive now moving out of the shadows from where they'd been keeping perfectly still, camouflaged directly over Williams' head. The 096 creature let out another bite from its inner jaws, piercing Williams' skull as he let out a blood-curdling scream. The scream echoed through the ship's metal corridors and then faded. Outside in the cold, empty vacuum of space, not a sound could be heard as the ship slowly crawled through the stars, carrying nightmares aboard. The year was 2150, but the problems had started long before. By now, humanity had become a spacefaring species, setting out from an overpopulated, overpolluted Earth to colonize other worlds that were barely more habitable. And as humanity ventured out across the stars, unbeknownst to most of them, the SCP Foundation had followed. With the sheer amount of anomalies encountered on Earth alone, the O5 Council deemed it wise course of action to embed Foundation operatives among off-world human colonies, continuing to further the Foundation's goals of containing anomalous creatures, entities, objects, persons, and places. However, conditions on Earth did not improve. If anything, they got worse. People boarding spaceships and going to found new colonies on worlds with letters and numbers for names did free up a little room on the human homeworld, but that barely made a difference. There were already those on Earth without any room for themselves, and without the funds to secure a spot on one of the departing interplanetary vessels. Add that to the sheer damage done by the launching of these ships, and those still stuck on Earth were now choking in fumes. And so was the Foundation. A mass exodus took place over the course of several decades. Many were given free passages to certain planets courtesy of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, one of the companies bankrolling the various colonization missions and terraforming new planets for humans to live on. Hence their slogan, Building Better Worlds. The company arranged some passengers to travel to one world, LV-426, even if they couldn't afford the space travel charges. Weyland-Yutani also worked closely with the SCP Foundation. When it became clear that the Foundation could no longer continue to operate on Earth, the corporation assisted them in shipping their extensive coterie of SCPs to facilities that had been established off-world. The USCSS Remus, a commercial secure transport ship owned by Weyland-Yutani, was tasked with moving one of the SCP Foundation's most infamous anomalies to a newly built containment site on a distant planet. With its face covered, led along by the nooses of catch poles around its head and arms, SCP-096 was moved into a chamber at the heart of the Remus, in preparation for the Shy Guy to be shipped off to its new home. Projections had the estimated time of arrival set for roughly 9 months later, with a layover scheduled partway through. As part of their agreement with the Foundation, Weyland-Yutani would use the transport ship to pick up items and materials deemed highly important to the company. Foundation personnel were told to allow the Weyland employees to go about their work and forbidden from accessing certain parts of the ship's cargo hold, reserved for company use only. After the layover, 9 months passed, then another 6. The Remus seemed to vanish without a trace, missing its expected arrival date by a considerable margin. Foundation personnel on the destination planet began scouring deep space frequencies for any sign of the ship, a distress call, anything, with no idea what had happened or where in space the vessel containing SCP-096 was. Unbeknownst to anyone, 5 months into the journey, an encoded directive from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation had urged the Remus to alter its course slightly. It had veered off into the wilder reaches of deep space shortly after departing from its brief layover at a company outpost. None of the crew aboard, asleep soundly in their cryogenic suspension pods, noticed the change, until an emergency alert forced them all to wake up suddenly. A crew comprised of the Foundation's Mobile Task Force Joule 86 was left aboard the Remus, given only basic training in piloting the vessel. They'd been told the ship's computer would handle the most part of their journey. None of them had been expecting to have to navigate their way through an asteroid storm. The bombardment struck the Remus, causing severe damage through the ship and multiple critical system failures, including the containment chamber housing SCP-096. Once control had been re-established over the damaged vessel, MTF Joule 86 quickly realized warnings coming from the life sign scanners and motion detectors. Having a camera system aboard was ill-advised with SCP-096. It seemed that the ship's only other occupant was free from its containment chamber. At least, they thought the Shy Guy was the only other living thing on the Remus with them. Clambering out of the unsealed chamber, SCP-096 found itself free to move around for the first time in a long while. It hadn't been afforded the luxury of a cryogenic nap, meaning it had been awake and stuck inside the chamber for every agonizing month ever since the Remus had departed Earth. Stretching its elongated limbs to will them out of atrophy, it started to explore the dank, dark belly of the spaceship. Out here, so far from home, there weren't any prying eyes to look at it. SCP-096 didn't feel the usual pull that drove it towards whoever saw it. The rage state that boiled up and compelled it to kill was quiet. Following a path of doors that had been suspiciously left open, SCP-096 walked through ruined corridors, only to trip over something heavy lying on the ground. It was a body. It recognized the clothing from back at the Foundation, the telltale jumpsuit of a member of D-Class personnel. There was another symbol, though, alongside the SCP Foundation's own insignia, a yellow W with a gray Y underneath it, one the Shy Guy had never seen before. The body had a cavity in its chest, as if something had broken through its ribs from the inside. The further the anomaly ventured, the stranger this unfamiliar place became. Metal corridors gave way to a hardened, more organic-looking substance, a kind of black resin coating the walls and the floor. The entire corridor. Something moved, something hiding, blending in with the strange surface. SCP-096 could feel itself being watched, the rage rising, but not fully. It was different somehow. When humans looked at it, it felt it. Whatever was here seemed to look without eyes, preventing the Shy Guy from instinctively knowing where it was. With a sudden hiss, that something pounced at SCP-096. The thin, pale creature shrieked, trying to raise its elongated limbs to defend itself, only to cry out in pain as it felt teeth sinking into its arms. Above it was a flailing, hideous monster, something like drool practically pouring from its mouth. The Shy Guy was too busy struggling to get a good enough look at it. Summoning up what little rage it could, SCP-096 hurled the nightmare back and scrambled back to its feet, just as the Xenomorph did the same. It had come out of the D Class, the company property left aboard the Ramus during the ship's short layover. A near cylindrical skull was encased beneath a smooth, vaguely translucent carapace. No eyes beneath its dome, just a featureless face, save for its dribbling, snarling mouth. The alien lurched, whipping its flimsy, prehensile tail towards SCP-096, the barb at the tip like a stinger of a scorpion. The Shy Guy effortlessly swiped it away with a single swipe of its large hand, screaming at the horrifying Xenomorph. Lowering itself onto all fours, the alien began to charge at SCP-096, and the anomalous creature, fearful for its safety but ready to defend itself, responded in kind. It lumbered through the narrow, cramped corridor. The ship had been designed for humans, not to accommodate a being of SCP-096's height and stature. It ran towards the hideous alien, expecting to tackle it head-on, only for the creature to leap out of SCP-096's path at the pivotal second, crawling up the resin-covered wall and up onto the ceiling. Outflanking the Shy Guy before it could react, the Xenomorph gave another strike with its tail. This one landed, piercing the anomaly's shoulder and causing it to howl in pain. It staggered, hit mid-charge, falling to the floor, gripping its injury. SCP-096 made loud, distressed noises that were heard over on the other side of the Ramus, as members of MTF Jewel 86 scrambled to get on their combat gear and figure out a strategy to recapture their anomalous passenger. A sudden silence befell the group as they all realized something. If they were the only other ones aboard the ship apart from the Shy Guy, then what was making it scream? The Xenomorph crawled towards the downed SCP-096 as it rolled onto its front, still gripping its injured shoulder, then tried to push itself back up onto its legs to run. Before it could stand, sharp, needle-like teeth burrowed into its ankles, and the alien's inner pharyngeal jaw shot out to bite the Shy Guy. It screamed in pain again, trying desperately to crawl to safety on its wounded legs. It pulled away as the eyeless face of the alien drew nearer, hissing and drooling menacingly. SCP-096 was expecting a killing strike, one more bite from that piston-like inner jaw to finish it off. But it never happened. The Xenomorph was almost studying the frightened creature cowering before it, silently regarding it. The Shy Guy felt woozy, succumbing to its injuries. The only thing it saw before falling unconscious, a horrific nightmare, as was the sight awaiting it when it woke back up. SCP-096 struggled, regaining consciousness to find itself stuck fast to a wall with the same dark resin substance that coated this part of the ship. Resting before it was a large, leathery object, 4 lobes on its top. It was clear what the object was. It was an egg. As the Shy Guy started to struggle in its confinement, the top of the egg unfolded, like the petals of a flower, and 8 long legs began scrabbling around at the opening, before a facehugger leapt out of the egg, and what a face it found. Some of the Ramus soon found themselves in a similar predicament. The ones that didn't were met with a new breed of horror. A tall, slightly paler alien creature with misshapen, elongated limbs, the Xenomorph's characteristically shaped head, and a wide mouth locked in a permanently screaming expression. It could move faster than the other drones that were soon infesting the ship, appearing behind the Foundation crew the moment they looked at its face. Before long, the screaming aboard the ship had stopped. The computer filed one more message before shutting down. Final report of the commercial starship Ramus. All members of the crew, Heinrich, Matthews, Rico, Williams, Bayan, Paxton, and Weaver, all deceased. Subject SCP-096 destroyed. New cargo acquired, as per company directive. Now check out SCP-2845 Alien God Crash Lands on Earth and SCP-096 Tale, A Lesson in Power for more.